Okay, I think we've got a good number of people here, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm assuming many of you have already seen the RFP go out, but we're very excited to kind of go through and introduce our Scholars Program for Cohort 4, which is very exciting. This is our 4th year going in. We're excited to hear from you guys, see your proposals, that kind of thing. Please, if you can, save all your questions for the end. I'm just going to go through quickly essentially a summary of what you've already seen on the RFP, in case any of your questions, in case I answer any of your questions on this presentation. And then I've got a few of my coworkers here to go through and help with questions at the end. So Cohort 4, we're excited to have you all. Okay, so Autism Intervention Network on Physical Health. This was started back in 2020. And many of you are familiar, if not, with Dr. Alice Kuo. This is funded by the Maternal and Child Health Bureau. Our mission for ARP is to develop a robust research infrastructure. So we're excited to constantly get new ideas, new proposals, especially surrounding autism and the lifespan. We have our research is divided into research nodes. They're all listed here. Primary care services and quality, community-based lifestyle and interventions, gender, sexuality, reproductive health, health systems and services, neurology, and genetics. More information, I know you guys are kind of just seeing it now on the slide, but there's more information, more in-depth information on our website, which I think will be thrown in the chat so you guys can have access. But yeah, anyway, so depending on what kind of research you're thinking about doing, and if it falls under any of these, go ahead and go on the website. That'll give you more familiarity. Okay, in terms of the application and the proposals, so the outline stage is due by the end of this month. Hopefully that should be enough time. March 31st is the deadline. You have to complete an outline in order to fully submit a full application, which will be due on June 1st. And then to keep in mind, proposals must address a topic or any topic related to autism and physical health, with a particular focus on enhancing the health and well-being of autistic people. And if you have any questions on that, or if you'd like to see examples of that, you can find that on our website, which this is the website link below. And Bree's thrown that in the chat, so that's helpful. And I'm sure many of you have already read this on the RFP, but we do appreciate projects with an emphasis on underserved groups. We love seeing those. And then again, previously awarded projects are listed on the site if you guys are curious about that. So goals of the program, go through here. The goals of the program is to provide pilot and feasibility funding for preliminary research and data on secondary data analysis. We want to provide mentorship, training, professional development for new researchers. It's very exciting. And then to foster collaboration among the network members and new researchers within the ARP network. So which is a huge network that you would have access to as awardees as well. Who is eligible? So each project would need to be led by a principal investigator, and they need to have access to an IRB. You need to have a doctorate degree, or they can be actively enrolled in a degree granting doctoral program. You can be early stage investigators, which includes the following, or later stage investigators who are interested in transitioning into this kind of research. Individuals from underrepresented gender and racial and ethnic groups, as well as individuals with disabilities. That obviously also includes autistic people. And of course, citizens or a non-citizen of the US, as long as they're lawfully admitted for permanent residence here, can also be eligible to submit as well. So eligibility, and then we'll go into funding. Per award, we grant from $10,000 to $50,000 for this cohort for this academic year. here is what the funds can be used for, and these are what the funds cannot be used for. Essentially, all direct funding is accepted, but indirect funding is not. And then some of the examples of that are listed below. So direct funding would include kind of like software, medical, scientific equipment, tech support, that kind of thing. And then indirect costs such as, salary support would not be covered. And if you have further questions about that, we can get to those detailed questions at the end. Mentorship and training. So it's two-part. There's a project advisor who's responsible for providing continuous research support for the actual project-related activities. And then there's a career mentor who will be responsible for meeting quarterly with scholars. They provide crucial career advice and assistance with long-term goals. You can have more than one of each, but one individual must be identified as the primary project advisor, who will essentially coordinate the applicant's research. Then you can have one career mentor who will essentially provide scaffolding for long-term goals of the project. Hopefully that makes sense. If anyone had questions on that clarified that. If not, again, we can answer those at the end. So to go into more detail about each project advisor, you need to work with a project advisor to prepare for your application. They document availability of sufficient research support you may need to conduct the proposed research. And if data access is required in order to complete the project, such as any secondary data analysis, can be approved, access must be confirmed by the project advisor. And then the career mentor, if desired, can be from an ARP network, and it can be assigned. That's just something that you can email us about, let us know. A mentorship form will be provided for scholars and career mentors to complete quarterly. And then all of your career mentors will meet twice a year with the ARP steering committee for any type of faculty development. Again, you do need a project advisor to apply, but if you don't have a career mentor, you can specify that in your application, and we can pair you with a career mentor if that's what you need. So how are findings disseminated? So basically, awardees will have these following opportunities. You can have presentations at biannual ARP research days. Right now, I think they're happening in DC. They were happening virtually, but they're in person. You can contribute to ARP publication channels. Right now, we're working with a site called Curious. You can contribute to ARP webinar series, which we have active participation at, and you can also engage in many other network activities. There's always things going on within ARP. So then the project, there's two stages. Stage one is the project outline. The outline must be submitted by March 31st. Again, that's the end of this month. And once you've submitted that, after we receive all of the submissions at the end of the month, we will notify those that move on to stage two by April 14th. So you will be notified by April 14th after the outline has been approved by both the ARC, which is our Autistic Researcher Committee, and the NCC here at ARP. Here are the requirements at minimum that you need to submit your outline. I think there's more detail on the outline in the RFP. I didn't want to include that all on the slide. So again, if you have more questions about the details of what goes into the project outline, you can refer to that at the RFP, which is on our website. You cannot skip the outline phase. So please submit your outline by March 31st. So that you can be considered for to submit a full application. And that includes even if you make changes down the line, that's okay. We just really require that you submit an outline by March 31st first. Full application requirements. So once you've been notified on April 14th, you need to submit your full application by June 1st. And that's obviously upon the approval of your outline. And your application needs to contain the following: a description of your project, description of the involvement of the community that you had, bio sketches. Again, the examples and details of what those are in the RFP, budget proposal, letter of support from the project advisor and career mentor, and contract forms. And then once you've been notified that you are an awardee, this is what would be required of you. One, you need IRB approval and exemption. You can email that to our email, which is listed there. You would need to submit a mid-year report. This is due 15 days after the halfway point of your project. You would need to submit a final report. This would be due 45 days after the end of your project. You need to acknowledge the ARP in all of your programs, public information materials, and any publications. And that also should be shared, anything should be shared with our email. And then, of course, plain language and promotional summaries required at the end of the project, and that would be distributed throughout the ARP network. So what criteria will be used during this review? I've listed them here. Again, this is just off the RFP. There are more details on there. I just wanted to include that on a slide here. And then finally, the deadlines. I feel like I'm a broken record. I just keep saying these just so no one's surprised. The outline deadline is March 31st, and that's 4 p.m. Pacific time. And then the full application, again, once you're notified on the 14th of April, will be June 1st, also at 4 p.m. Pacific time. If you have any questions during this period, feel free to email us. And then we have a breakdown here of it went out last week. We obviously didn't include the Q&A. The Q&A was today. Project outline is due 31st. You'll be notified on the 14th. June 1st is when the application is due. Then the scholars will be notified on July 21st. On the original RFP that we actually sent out last week, there was probably a confusion. It said in a paragraph July 15th, and then on this little timeline here, it was the 21st. I just want to clarify that now that you will be notified on the 21st, not the 15th. The new RFP will be posted on our website and will be disseminated again, probably if it hasn't already, by end of day today. So you'll be notified by the 21st once it's been fully approved and reviewed. And then the funding cycle officially begins on September 1st of this year. That's pretty much it. That's what I've got. I want to open the floor now for questions. So I'm going to end sharing my screen so I can see if any of you want to unmute, put your hands up, that kind of thing. I've got Juliana Raba here. She can help answer any questions that you guys might have.
For the for step 1, I know it's 2 pages single space. Does that include references as well?
No, does not include the references.
Awesome, thank you.
It's a good question.
For the project advisor, does that person have to be affiliated with the AARP? How is that process? Because I know specifically that the career mentor needs to, but I wasn't sure about the project advisor.
No, the project advisor does not have to be affiliated with the AIRP. Melissa, sorry, my dog's now attacking me.
No problem. So is there a list of all the ARP members? We were trying to look at who is listed on the website, and it wasn't the full listing. I think it was just the key people that are part of like the staff and key people. So is there a way that we can look at the entire network listing?
Do you mean like did you see the research nodes, and did you see all the node leaders on there as well, like those people? Essentially the ARP network is pretty big. I feel like if you want people like the node leaders and those kinds of career mentors would be listed on the website. If you want to ask to be paired with someone specific, I don't know, Jules, if you have another list in mind that might be helpful for them to use.
You also you might like to look at the CRE page. I think it's under or about. It won't have specific names, but it has the institutions. And so even just reaching out, I think they each have like contacts within their pages. And they can help identify individuals. But also, like if you're interested in an institution, or if you have a topic, but you're looking for someone, feel free to email us at the email, and like we can help facilitate some of that.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So in terms of the actual review, we saw the criteria. Are there different sets of criteria for the early versus late career awardees? How does that get managed in terms of like, I'm assuming for the early career people, there should be like a lot of detail in terms of the career trajectory and then also in terms of the training plan. Is that correct?
There isn't any difference in criteria if you are considered a late career investigator. For late career, we're typically expecting a little bit more of like a career change. Like, why are you now focusing in autism and physical health? And how can this grant support you? Specifically, like, how is this pilot data like going to focus on like getting you experience in this realm? I think that's the only difference we would be looking for if you had, if you were a little bit more in a later stage. Did I answer everything? Yeah, okay. I think DH has their hand up if they'd like to.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a while. Thanks for hosting this information session. Just out of curiosity, could you please let us know like the kind of average success rate of this grant program, if possible?
That's a great question. I'm trying to remember the first cohort. I think we ended up funding everyone, or there was only like 2. It depends based very much on there's a few things. Sorry, hang on. Let me think of how to respond. I would say it's pretty high success rate. Looking at all 3 cohorts, it would definitely be over 50%, but it also, I mean, like, it depends on how many applications we have, and how much they align with the ARP mission. So I don't want to just say like a number based on applications, because a lot of it is aligned with the criteria that's listed in the RFP, and ensuring that each project really gets at, I think there's 5 or 6 criteria that we have in that full application stage. That's what we're looking at, making sure it aligns. And then, I mean, if we had so many applications that they wouldn't all get funded, we haven't really reached that mark too often. If that helps give a little information.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this secret. Thank you.
Following up on DH's question, is there a total amount that you guys have in mind in terms of total budget for this for this cohort?
Yes. Are we allowed to share that, Nellie? Sorry.
That's a great question. Probably not. We'll probably just like probably shouldn't share that, but we have an idea.
So because there's a 10 to 15, it's between 10 to 15K, I think, is the RFP that says that you guys should budget for. It allows for like a multiple, yeah.
It depends on the range, what each proposal is asking, what they would need that could allow for potentially more. You know, it's on a sliding scale, so it's hard to tell. These are good questions. And then, of course, no pressure if you can't think of, if you think of something right after the call, you could always email the ARP email and we can get back to you as well.
All right, I have a bunch. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we're trying to identify how to pitch this. So on one end, we've applied for and received funds from like the community-based grants from Autism Speaks, which are pretty lay term, like written much more for a lay audience. And on the other end, we're looking at, NIH type style grants. Because this is a research grant, we were trying to aim it more towards the NIH style approach. Does that seem to be reasonable in terms of identifying mechanisms, identifying more of a basic research approach, or to what extent should we try and write it more broadly to a much more broad audience?
I would say that it leans more NIH approach. However, this is the luxury of the ARP is we are trying heavily to integrate more like of a community-based approach within that NIH framework. So as you'll see in the RFP, like we really want you to emphasize where is the community engagement with the autistic community engagement. So while you do want like your study design to have like follow typical NIH standards, we want to also see like, just as much like where have you gotten the autistic input.
Perfect. So using that like behavioral model for interventions would be appropriate kind of language. Okay, perfect.
We have expert like with our nodes, we have reviewers that are experts within each of the nodes that will be reviewing based on the application.
And then my last question is, to what extent are we able to engage with some of those node leaders? Kind of like you talk to a program officer and pitch what your idea is and try to titrate that a bit. Are we able to engage with them, and to what extent?
Absolutely. You are able to reach out to them directly if you would like to CC the ARP email to help ensure like that there is that facilitation. If it doesn't happen in the project outline stage, I wouldn't worry. Just kind of still move forward with your project outline, and we'll ensure that there's at least an interaction before the full application's due.
That was a good question.
I have a question about how much will the cohort collaborate with one another, or is this like a separate entity project? Will there be opportunities for people within the cohort who get funding to be able to work together and learn and receive like group related mentorship, or is it an individual based activity?
That's a great question. And it has recently come up, that type of idea. It as of now, it's framed as an individual base that you'd be working with your project advisor at your institution or wherever your project advisor is, and having some feedback from career mentors. However, there are a few opportunities within this, the design we already have, to facilitate a little bit more engagement with I'd say the wider network, and that you will be presenting at least one time within the year to the network, which is the CRE leaders, the node leaders, and other scholars or scholars alumni attend those meetings. So that's a great opportunity to get feedback outside of who isn't already included in your project, as well as the research days have been a really great opportunity. We had our first in-person research day in November at the AUCD conference, and that was a really great opportunity for scholars to present and kind of network amongst each other. But this is something we're hoping to kind of consider in the future, how to allow scholars to communicate, collaborate amongst each other. So it's on our minds, and we do keep like an alumni network of scholars too. So hopefully it kind of just progresses as as you're part of the scholars program.
I have a question about the career mentors. I'm wondering, I know that is optional and not necessarily a requirement. I'm wondering if applications are viewed more favorably if you have a career mentor, or if that makes a difference. Does that make any difference? Is it encouraged, or?
Go ahead, Jules.
Sorry. So career mentors are required. They're just, you don't have to have them identified in the project outline phase.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Understood that if needed, then that made that.
Sorry, the if needed is if you need help at being matched with someone.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
These were all good questions. Hopefully you guys answered each other's questions a little bit too, if you were thinking of any of them. Are there any more right now?
I have a follow-up question that is similar to Melissa's earlier about career mentors, just now that I'm understanding them better. So my university and my department is listed on the research and collaborating research entities. but I don't necessarily know who within my department counts as a career mentor. Can I how would I go about figuring that out?
This is a good point. Maybe this is something our team can get together, and maybe we'll add to the end of the RFP the list of names and contacts,
From CREs.
CRAs and node leaders. Yeah, I mean, node leaders they're kind of on there, but I think it'd be useful to have that at the bottom of the RFP, so we can update that and send out
We have a
Blah.
list, like a small list of them. We could, but that's just one of those things that we don't want to like publicly disseminate like their information. But I guess for the RFPs for you guys, that would be different. You know, but then we would post that on our website.
I think this is a good point and something we probably have to work through. And we do actually have a CRE meeting coming up next week, so maybe we can ask them.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, if there's, how about you just email us directly and we can facilitate that interaction for now. If there's any series that you're interested in, but you're not sure who the contact is, we'll help facilitate that. And then is it the case that there must be a single PI, or are the co-PIs permissible? Or could there be co-PIs, but with one PI officially designated as the lead? Yes, there is the option for co-PIs. We do kind of prefer there to be like a primary PI. And it should be whoever the early career investigator is. But I don't know if you need more context. Essentially, yes, co-PIs are okay. Okay.
These are great. Anything else? Again, I know some of you guys might have questions right after this, which again, feel free to email the ARP email. And we can either update the RFP or just email you guys back directly and kind of keep you posted. But if that's it for now, thanks for joining. I hope we answered all of your questions, of course. I'm glad that we were able to help. And we wish you guys best of luck. We're excited to kind of start seeing your proposals come in, your outlines to come in.